Hello ladies and gentlemen, Spartan Wolf here, and welcome to kind of a different video. As you can see, I am on Halo 3. Actually, no Master Chief Collection, but you know, I'm on a Halo 3 game on that game. You may recognize this map as... Actually, what did they call this one again? Was it Valhalla or... whatever they called it. Everyone should know this map if you're a fan of Red vs Blue. This is one of the bases. But anyways, the reason why I picked this map is to talk about the history of the Halo games, so specifically the kind of like what made them great. Now, even though I'm Halo 3, I'm going to be talking in chronological order, so starting with the good classic Halo Combat Evolved, the very first Halo game. Now, if anybody who has never played it on the original Xbox, you probably don't know, or you've played the remastered and don't understand pardon me, the impact that game had on a grand scale. It was a game made for a time that wasn't ready yet. It was a revolutionary game. What type of game it was? It was a masterpiece of its era. A brilliant multiplayer, a brilliant story. It was the game that you basically, a lot of people were committed to. Catch my drift? Can't we say anything more of the game, especially in the time period? Maybe the remastered, there's a bit of issues, but I'm not talking about the remastered, I'm talking about the original. So, yeah, that's what I need to say about that game. The game was a masterpiece. It had a brilliant story, first introduction of the Halo, and the introduction to the Covenant, the Flood, the Marines, the Halo Wings itself, like the one I'm on. Actually, is this a Halo ring? I don't see a ring. It's meant to be a Halo ring. Oh yeah, there it is. See, you can see here's the edge. Okay, so yeah, I am on a Halo ring. It's just... Actually, is that Halo? I can't not tell actually. Well, oh no, I'm on the Ark. Never mind. No. This is the Ark. I thought this is the Halo wing. I forgot this is the Ark. You know, those are meant to fire to the opposite side to receive signals, so maybe I am on a Halo wing. But anyways, we'll move on to the next game on the line, Halo 2. Again, a game made for a time that was definitely not prepared for a game like that. Introduced a new aspects, even introduced a viewing through the Covenant with the Arbiter, which has never been seen in that type of game style where you would go from one point of view to another, such like that. Again, a brilliant game for a brilliant story and a good multiplayer. And it introduced one of the best secondary characters in this trilogy, which was the Arbiter himself. Which also started a few trilogies when it went, well, a few YouTube shorts and that, especially when we got to Halo 3, which is now the next game on the line. Halo 3, in my opinion, the last good combined Halo game. Now, I'll only explain what I mean by combined, where it had a good multiplayer and story. After this game, it sort of went one way or the other. I'll explain in the next game. But again, this game, an amazing story which introduced one of the biggest cliffhangers, even bigger than this cliff, of all time, which was, is it the end of the Halo series? Master Chief was lost in space, Cortana was with him, the Arbiter did make it back, but there was no idea if it would see any more of him, what would happen to UNSC, nothing. Until we fast forward to Halo Reach. a filler game which was to show us the origins of what happened for the Chief to go to the Halo Ring, aka the prequel. Halo Reach takes place on Planet Reach, and in my opinion has one of the most brilliant stories. One of the most brilliant stories in the game. But to be fair, I've said that about every Halo game, but for its time period, each game had a brilliant story of the games of those years. Unfortunately, the story was probably one of the best parts of the game. It had one of the most newest games, which came out in, what game was it came out for? Another game, which I will talk about. Technically, it's more of a deal. I see it's more of a DLC than an actual game, because I'll explain when I get to it. But it introduced Firefight. It had Firefight in the game, and introduced, a few other aspects, such as one of the greatest things, wide scale forging. Forging was a good thing in this game. This game had a big custom game community, big, but a quite small forge community, because forging in this game was unfortunately kind of limited. But Halo Reach introduced a large scale forging. You could literally build anything you want, any type of game mode on any type of map, and it would work. Unfortunately, that is where the good parts of the multiplayer end. Its multiplayer, in my opinion, was not the greatest. The guns were lackluster if you looked at the guns existing previously. For example, the assault rifle. What I'm looking at now. The assault rifle in this game was semi-decent. Medium to close range, it was able to drop a target. At from long range, you needed something like this. The battle rifle. Now, in every other game, especially Halo 2, when the battle rifle was introduced, it categorized guns. If you had an assault rifle, medium to close range at the beginning. If you had a long range semi or burst rifle, long range, medium to long range. However, Reach was kind of the opposite. Reach was mainly pistol. The pistol was broken in that game and kind of ruined the experience, where you could out damage people with assault rifles, with DMRs. If depending on who lands the first couple of shots, if you get hits with DMR, you can outgun a pistol. Unfortunately, most people who have a pistol like to jump around, making it harder to hit, whereas people with rifles are more steady and more ground down. They don't like to jump around. So because of that, pistols dominated the game. And the most common game modes that were used were assassination towers, which, if anybody in the community knows, was one. It was kind of an unbalanced mess. Sometimes it'll be fun and people will be very happy and cheerful to play together, talk to each other. Most of the time they won't even assassinate, they just go off and talk to each other. But then you have these toxic lobbies where people would lag switch and all that. Unfortunately, an experience that's also in Master Chief Collection. But it did start the clan communities. At the time, was one of the greatest things. It then died in Halo Reach. So the Halo Reach was very unbalanced when it comes to what it was. In my opinion, it was the greatest story of its time. Multiplayer was very lackluster. Then we go on to Halo DST, another game which was technically meant to be made, takes place after Halo 2 and before Halo 3. That game was actually quite good. Good story. Multiplayer didn't have one. It primarily ran on the Halo 3 multiplayer, so nothing really different. But it introduced Firefight. It was its multiplayer, which, if you know, Firefight is a multiplayer game mode. Was very fun, especially as an ODST. You had to work together, actually, plan what you're doing, plan your positioning. It was actually a very tactical game mode for that type of game. So all around, I'll give Halo DST thumbs up. It's a good game. Moving on to Halo 4. Again, had the same problem as Reach. It had a good story. It had a semi-good game modes, good custom games. Unfortunately, bad multiplayer. It was a card rip-off. It was a Halo Reach. It was like Halo Reach and card merged together. Not a good combination. And unfortunately, a trend that passed on to Halo 5, which unfortunately had the biggest problem being the worst Halo. Its story was bad, the multiplayer was broken and unstable, and even though it did have an amazing custom games and clan communities, early on it drove downhill rapidly fast as the community slowly broke up and became toxic. Halo 5 was one of the worst games to come out, and especially because of the pack system to get armor skins and all that. It was really unbalanced. And to move on to Halo Infinite, the newest game of the trilogy. And right now, it's got an amazing story. At the very best in a long while, especially for the company 343. Definitely worthwhile playing it for the story. However, multiplayer lacking. Right now, I will say right now, because they don't have Forge and they don't have co-op, so the game is kind of lackluster in terms of what you're able to do. But when co-op comes out for the campaign, the extra content, and when multiplayer finally gets its Forge mode, I feel like it'll become an amazing game. It will be one of the best since Halo 3. Probably be better, the best Halo in general, even outclassing Halo Reach's story and all that. But it still has a lot of progress. So, if you want recommendations, I would recommend, if you want to play good Halo games for the story, definitely play 1, 2, 3, ODST, Reach, and Halo 4. Don't touch Halo 5, just, there's no point. It's a horrible story, horrible multiplayer, just skip that game. But every other Halo, would recommend you playing. Honest to God fun. Anyways, that's my review over the trilogy of Halo. Anybody that's been like wanting to understand the Halo story and all that, I recommend. No point watching YouTube videos, because the lore of Halo has sort of went jumbled, especially the TV show. If you want to learn the lore, play the games. Find all of the information points and all that. Read the books, do all that. Do not follow what YouTubers say. Half of the information they've got has been either disproven or has been obsoleted. And if you want to start, I would recommend start playing Reach, then Combat Evolved, then Halo. Basically go Reach 1, 2, 3, 4, and then Infinite. But anyways, this is your boy Spartan Wolf reviewing Halo, the home of the Spartans. And I hope all of you all have a wonderful time and a wonderful day. And see ya.